Am I the a-hole for throwing my rings in the ocean after my husband told me he had an affair, even though it was a prank? This is the dumbest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. This past Sunday, my husband and I, male 29 and female 27, were on our boat together. We were just relaxing and talking and having a good morning. All of a sudden, my husband gets really serious and tells me, "Baby, I'm so sorry, but I have to tell you something. I'm so sorry, please forgive me. I had an affair." For context, my husband thinks he's a comedian. He says dumb stuff all the time, but he's never joked about our marriage or relationship or cheating, ever. The way he said it, I fully believed him. I was blinded by rage and hurt, and I am not a confrontational person at all, so all I did was stand up, take my rings off, and throw them into the ocean. I don't even know why I did it. It was just the first thing I thought of doing. My husband's jaw hit the floor. He immediately started to yell at me that it was a joke, a prank. He wasn't serious, and I was an idiot. My jaw dropped then too. I yelled at him too and called him the same. I cried too, realizing I just threw my lovely and sentimental rings into the ocean. We've been arguing for days. He says I'm the a-hole, I say he's the a-hole, and I have no idea who's right. Yes, admittedly, I threw about 10K worth of rings into the ocean and we will never find them again. But he looked me in my eyes and told me he had an affair. I am upset about my rings. I've apologized for throwing them, but I just don't feel like the a-hole. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The fact that your husband thought for even 1 second that this would be funny tells me he's a stooge. And then to blame you. That was cruel, unfunny, and almost undeniably a permanent scar on your marriage. Over a sick joke. And please, for the love of God, stop apologizing. Those rings would still be on your finger if not for his complete and utter stupidity. This is 1000% his fault. Has he apologized? Yes, stop apologizing. And ask how he's going to replace the rings he owes you. And no more jokes. I would make clear that the next time will be the last time. If someone lies to you about your child being killed in a car accident, then tells you later that it's just a joke, that doesn't change the traumatic experience you just had of believing your child is gone. Making someone experience trauma isn't a prank, it's engaging in cruelty for your own amusement. Right, it's like yelling, "Fire!" in a crowded theater, and then claiming the right to free speech. Husband isn't a comedian, he's a freaking a-hole. OP's husband is displaying some sociopathic behavior by not understanding that. A prank is a trick played on someone in order to make them look foolish and amuse others. Unless you have good reason to hate someone and feel justified in hurting them, then pranks by their nature are sociopathic. You're literally using someone as an object of amusement against their best interests. Yikes, not the a-hole. He brought up having an affair because he wanted to get a reaction out of you. He got one. He literally said the thing he thought would rile you up the most. Yep, this was a fool around and found out situation and the husband found out. Hope he's not the a-hole because she was hurt and in shock. The least his husband can do is own his sad effort to be funny by pranking his wife. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Not the a-hole, all on husband. Don't joke about serious things. Next story. I told my friend her husband cheated with his cousin's wife. My friend got married a few months ago to her longtime partner. The wedding was beautiful. We ate, drank a lot, and had a great time. They had about 300 people and had lots of entertainment. This is important later. Fast forward to last week when I was running errands and saw my friend's husband at a local Target. We made eye contact, but it wasn't himself. He usually is very friendly and talks a bunch because we've all known each other for a long time. He was nervous and looked uncomfortable, plus he was being very short with me. I got the hint and was telling him bye when a girl started calling him babe, and it wasn't my friend. It was very awkward, but I knew I recognized her from somewhere. I was so bothered that I rushed home and started looking through my photos, and boom, I see her. She was at their wedding. She is his cousin's wife of all people. In the middle of me flipping out, I was explaining to my fiancé what happened and he was, like me, blown away by the audacity of this dude. I had to tell her. I got all my feelings together to calm down and made a call. It was one of the worst things I've had to do. They have what people think is a fairy tale life, and it was hard to tell her what I saw. She was in denial and yelled at me. I did snap a pic of them at Target. I needed to have proof, and sent it to her. Out came the waterworks. She apologized for yelling and told me she needed to call her dad. Before she hung up, she said she didn't want to talk for a while. I messaged her yesterday to check on her. I just wanted her to know I was thinking of her and hoped she was okay. To my surprise, I got a response and she asked if I could talk. I said yes. My phone rang, but it wasn't her. It was him. He started cursing and yelling at me for ruining his life. He said her dad and uncle have asked for reimbursement for some of the wedding expenses, mainly the entertainment. At the wedding, a quartet, band, and DJ were the entertainment throughout the night, and it was an open bar. All his request, grand total of $18,000. They threatened to take him to court if he doesn't pay up. They are both retired lawyers. Lol. He signed a prenup because my friend has her own salon, and that was her condition in order for her to get married. Needless to say, he will not get anything, and he was complaining to me about being broke and homeless. He told me I should have kept my mouth shut and stayed out of all this. While on the phone with me, she walks in on him and hangs up. I feel bad for my friend. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Why do I ask if I am the a-hole? So I am getting a lot of backlash from a few friends and their family. Again, we all went to school together and I know parents and extended family. They're basically telling me it would have come out eventually and they could have worked it out in private. I was even called jealous by a different cousin of the groom. I told him to eat turd because he was caught cheating on his wife a couple of years ago, so his opinion of me was irrelevant. The groom's cousin had no idea, so you guessed it, another divorce in progress. I am anticipating messages and stuff from them too. I don't feel bad for what I did, because that's my friend and I would want someone to tell me if I were in that situation. I do feel bad for her because she thought he was the one. Now she's pretty sad and I don't think she can handle her world crumbling right now. I have not talked to her on the phone, but she has replied to some texts. No, it is better this happened before kids are involved. It will be hard for her, but in the long run, better. OP's friend will thank OP when she looks back on this chapter. Got what he deserved, and to blame you for outing his infidelity when the wedding just happened with his cousin's wife to boot? Well, he can cry in his girlfriend's arms. And I'm sure the family will not attend a wedding. His family might be having a double divorce since he was cheating with his cousin's wife. As for him being threatened with a civil suit and being left broke and likely having to move back in with his parents or something, couldn't have happened to a more deserving guy. You're a really good friend. I hope that's the hardest thing you ever have to do, and I hope your friend forgives you for being the messenger. Not the a-hole, obviously. Seems like she did already. The fact she immediately apologized for lashing out. OP, please stay close to her during this time. You did an amazing thing for her telling the truth, especially in an age where people say it's not your business to tell. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be the bigger person and apologize to my sister-in-law's husband? The entire family, in-laws, have been divided since last year when some BS happened. I went to my sister-in-law's house to visit, and my sister-in-law's husband slapped my 7-year-old ASD child across the face for running in the house. It wasn't overly hard, but I don't think that matters. Obviously, no running in the house is a set rule, but where my child is on a spectrum, he needs frequent reminders. His skip runs when steaming. We hadn't even been at the house for 15 minutes at most when this happened, and my sister-in-law's husband gave no warning or reminder. It happened so quick that I didn't even have the chance to speak to my kid myself. He just walked up, slapped my son in the face, and yelled, "No running in the house." I immediately called the cops, and when they were at the house, I called my husband who left work to come be with us. My sister-in-law's husband basically ran indoors with his tail between his legs the second my husband showed up. My husband and I fought this for months, trying to get my sister-in-law's husband charged, but ultimately the courthouse did nothing and neither did the cops. He got away with it. Since this happened, half of the family has stopped visiting my sister-in-law at all. This is a huge deal because my sister-in-law throws multiple family functions a year, and family's huge to her. But they basically told her that since she stood by her husband and defended her husband on this, they wanted nothing to do with her. Guilty by association, basically. We also went no contact with her and her husband. Given the police reports and it being on both sister-in-law and her husband's background reports, while the investigation and court hearings were open, they were both fired from their jobs. Sister-in-law was a caseworker. Her husband was an assistant principal. My sister-in-law apparently started working retail at minimum wage, but her husband hasn't worked since because he is too depressed. Well, in the more recent months, we have been contacted by a few family members asking us to forgive and forget so that family life can pick up as usual. I outright refuse. I never told anyone they had to stop associating with these people. They did it on their own. But sister-in-law and her husband also have these people convinced that my son ran into this man's hand, and that he didn't slap him at all, and that they lost their jobs and livelihood because I dramatically twisted the story. Now, my mother-in-law, who never stopped contact, is asking me to be the bigger person and apologize to sister-in-law and her husband for making them lose their jobs over a mistake, so that the family functions can start again and the whole family can be together. She says she's getting too old to lose out on family time over a mistake. I basically told her tough, and that sister-in-law and her husband are dead to me, and I don't care who has a problem with it. But apparently, I'm what's keeping the family divided, because a good portion of the family says they will only forgive when I do. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. No, do not freaking apologize. You aren't the one in the wrong here. Did either of them apologize to you? Did they apologize to your son? Until both of them sincerely apologize, you owe them nothing. You didn't make them lose their jobs. Their awful behavior did that. This is a hill to die on, not the a-hole. They did not apologize, no. They're saying I'm being overdramatic and just trying to convince everyone that it didn't happen like that. Tell anyone who wants you to bury the hatchet that they're free to spend time with violent child abusers and liars, that you never told them to stop. But that given there's been no apology and no justice, that you won't be around two supposed adults too scared to admit what they've done. That running into his hand is up there with husbands saying their wives tripped. That part right here. Also, the fact she was a caseworker screams hella disturbing. And he was an assistant principal, okay with hitting children? Absolutely not. There was no mistake. That grown man raised his hand, brought it down across my child's face, and said no running in the house. Sister-in-law and brother-in-law are lying, and I will not change my story in life for them to make their lives easier. That man hit my child. It's bad enough that you condone his abuse of my son, but if you ever again ask me to apologize, husband, I and our son will go no contact with you. Lying about what happened and apologizing is not being the bigger person. It's selling out my son. You may be okay with failing him as his grandmother, but I will never fail him as his mother. If it were me, this would be peppered with many F-bombs, but not everyone likes their language as colorful as I. Good luck with this. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting a relationship with my brother and sister-in-law after they admitted they were jealous of my 5 and 6-year-old nephews? I am an aunt to 2 nephews, 5 and 6 years old on my side, and to a niece and nephew, 1 and 3 on my husband's side, the children of the brother and sister-in-law. In December of 2023, I was blocked and deleted off all social media by my sister-in-law. I reached out to ask why with no response back. Ever since that day, my husband, 2-year-old daughter, and I have been shunned by the side of the family. Fast forward to the last couple of weeks, and they have reached out to us asking for an apology. When I ask for the reasoning of us being shunned, as I cannot apologize for something I am unaware I did, they proceeded to tell me they needed to step back and delete me and not talk to me or my family any longer because I was spending too much time with my other nephews, and because I had a sleepover with them in the summertime, that it was not fair to their kids. I explained to them that in the last year my nephew's parents had gotten a divorce. Their grandfather died, their grandmother was removed from home due to severe dementia. Their best friends and neighbors moved over an hour drive away. They had another house they had to adjust to because of the divorce, and were now having behavioral and mental health issues due to poor adjustment. The sleepover took place in the summer, so the kids could be somewhere happy while their dad moved out of the home. They responded by telling me that my nephew's problems had nothing to do with them, and that just because their kids aren't always in a dire situation doesn't mean I should have been spending a bit more time with my other nephews over their kids. I explained to them that though I wish I could divide every hour of my day equally amongst the people I love, unfortunately some people in our lives go through time periods where they need a bit more love and time from us than others. Also, looking back on social media and my calendar, it showed that I had seen both sets of kids the exact same amount of visits the entire year prior to me being shunned. I also explained to them that my nephews on my side have only ever slept over for 2 nights with us since they were born. My brother-in-law's son has also slept over 2 nights a full year before my other nephews ever had a sleepover with us. I also stated that age played a role as well, since their children are only 3 and 1. They kept demanding we apologize even though we did, many times, for making them feel insecure and pointed out that it was never our intention. The apology was deemed not good enough, and they have stopped responding other than to make mention of how comfortable they are in their choice to step away from us. It is concerning to me that they would throw away our entire relationships and their contact with their niece over this. And because of this, I do not ever want to reconcile. I no longer consider them family. Am I the a-hole for no longer considering them family and closing all future opportunities to reconcile? Edit. They also during all of this went on to mention that I never made it up to them for not being able to make it to either of their kids' birthday parties this year even though I was shunned. My daughter has asthma and started daycare, so we were sick for months. I also missed both my other nephews' birthdays this year. My husband still went to both of their kids' birthdays on behalf of our family. I also mentioned to them that the sister-in-law and their kids had never gone to any of my daughter's birthday parties. This was something I never expected to be made up to my daughter, as I assumed if they weren't there, it was because their kids were sick or because life got in the way. The expectations are very one-sided and manipulative. I just cannot continue to tiptoe around whatever storyline they're creating in their minds over innocent things. Not the a-hole. They're manipulative and jealous. They're trying to control you. Don't try to please them because you never will meet their unidentified standards. This isn't your problem. They sound completely nuts. Better for your mental health to go no contact with them and anyone either dumb or loony enough to support their imaginary slight. And please stop apologizing. You did nothing wrong. Not the a-hole. My way or the highway. Well, better get going before the traffic starts, I say. These people are unhinged. The 3 and 1-year-olds are not keeping tabs on how many times you visit. Their parents are. Honestly, I wouldn't bother with someone like this. Those are my thoughts exactly. But this entire experience has been incredibly painful for my husband, as it is his older brother mistreating us. My husband begged, "I'm sorry, I'll do better. Please stop this. I just want this over. I love the kids," begging not to be further ostracized from the kids. Several times. For them to still say my husband and I have not taken accountability or apologized for not giving their kids enough attention. My heart is broken watching my husband beg terrible people to keep innocent children that we love in our lives.
She told me she wanted to open the relationship after 7 years. After 7 years, she told me she wanted to open the relationship. Told me she decided she was poly and wanted to explore that side of her. Tried to frame this as if it's not just her wanting to sleep with other men by claiming this is an emotional deficiency in our relationship, like that makes it any better. She's been unemployed for 2.5 freaking years. 2.5 years I've worked 50 hours a week to support her ungrateful behind, so she can sit at home and do nothing but play video games and trash talk me to people online who apparently agree I'm not enough for her. She doesn't clean, doesn't do anything for the 2 damn dogs she brought into the relationship, doesn't do anything for me but unenthusiastic bedroom activity once in a while. She didn't even ask me, this was not a question. She just said that she wanted to open the relationship and acted like I was just going to have to go along with it. If anything, that's selfish, which is the reason this relationship has been emotionless for some time. She even tried to shame and guilt me when I said I'm not okay with this. Tried to tell me that no one man can fulfill everything she needs. Think of it like a puzzle, you're only one piece that fits to make me whole, and that I need to stop taking it personally. The only funny thing about this whole situation was how quick that manipulative witch changed her tune when I told her to get the F out. Go find her puzzle piece who will support her financially, because I'm done. Her shaming quickly turned to her apologizing and begging me to stay with her. Only funnier thing was when she showed even more emotion, when I told her she can't take the computer I paid for with her when she went to stay with her parents. This was just the straw that broke the camel's back, but it stings nonetheless. Now for the top comments. Glad you realized you should drop her. Sounds like you could have easily done it long ago. Life is short, mate, so crack on however you want and enjoy it. Knew that this relationship was only really benefiting her for a while now. I stayed with her for a variety of reasons, mostly because I convinced myself it was better to be with her than alone. This was just the final wake-up call I needed, that it was, in fact, better to be single than with her. Don't forget to change your locks, otherwise you might come home to find all your stuff has gone missing. Got the locks repinned the day after her butt moved in with her parents. Also, change your bank accounts and credit cards. Good for you, honestly. Yo, I said, F yo, out loud when I saw that he kicked her out, lol. Hate to be the one to tell you this, but based on the post title, her side of the relationship has likely been open before this request. I don't doubt that. I believe she's never cheated on me physically, but I know for a fact she's been messaging guys online who she wants to bang. I could be wrong, maybe she did go and spread her legs around. But wasting any more time worrying about her is time wasted. Go get a test. Yeah, I will go get tested just in case. Next story is titled, I, 28 female, pressured my husband, 26 male, into opening our marriage, and now he is divorcing me to be in closed relationship with his girlfriend. Plus update. Original post. I don't know where to start. After we got married, I finally confessed to him that I am kinda on polyamorous side. It took me days to convince him that it's not just an excuse to cheat, and that he can meet other people too. I wanted us to be one of those cool couples with zero jealousy and toxicity when it comes to the other people. Well, I should have seen it coming. He was depressed for first 6 months. I could see it on him, but I thought he'd be happy for me and hoped he'd realize that this is something good for both of us. After that phase, he became even colder with me, and my attempts to try to get him more involved into our marriage were failing. Then finally, he started seeing someone. It was killing me to see him on the phone with her all the time. He then got a separate bed too. He no longer wanted to even sleep with me, as his girlfriend wouldn't like it, and I felt horrible. A literal stranger was stealing my husband and I could do nothing about it. Then he'd start sleeping at her place more and more often, and now it finally happened. He brought divorce papers. He doesn't even want to speak to me anymore. I tried to tell him that we can close back our marriage if that's what he wants, but he doesn't want to even discuss anything. He just said he wants marriage and kids with her, and that is tearing me apart. What can I do to save my marriage and get back the man that I love? If I knew this would happen, I would never even bring up the idea of opening anything. Now for the advice before reading the update. What can I do to save my marriage and get back the man that I love? You can't. Your husband is done. You need to accept that and move on, no matter how difficult. And please use this as a lesson for future relationships, that it is not at all acceptable to pressure someone into an open marriage against their wishes. It was done when she told him she wanted to duck other guys. I agree. I don't think this is salvageable, as even with therapy both parties need to be willing to try to make it work, and your husband is not. I know it's hard, but try to see it from his point of view. He may feel that you pressured him into something he didn't want to do, as an excuse to cheat on him. He may see it all as you cheating on him, and have been heartbroken, hence the depression, and even then, you didn't offer to close things up. So, he got over his heartbreak and found someone else who was monogamous, and is moving on. I think if you had started the conversation when he was in the depression, it might have been salvaged, but you waited until he had moved on with someone else to try. It's okay to be polyamorous, but equally it's okay for him to want monogamy. It was never okay to pressure him into it. Your marriage was over the minute you pressured him into opening it. Sign the divorce papers, there is no way to save it. He basically just stayed with you out of convenience until he found someone better suited, and less selfish. What did you think would happen? You can't honestly be that stupid that you didn't realize what the consequences would be when you forced an open marriage on him. You went about this completely wrong, saw he was depressed for 6 months and ignored it, and waited too long to finally decide to do something about it. Learn from this and let him go. That part is what bothers me. So, she saw he was extremely upset for 6 months, and still pushed it. She didn't mention who she dated or what she did in that time. It wasn't ethical, it was selfish on her part till he moved on. You said you finally confessed to him that you wanted to be a polyamorous relationship after getting married. Which means you knew before getting married, but waited until after to be open with him about something that is knowingly a deal breaker for a lot of people. Lying by omission is still lying. You based your marriage on a lie of commitment and monogamy. Withholding information that prevents your partner from making an informed decision is selfish and morally wrong. There is no getting your marriage back. It seems to me that when you opened the marriage, he spent 6 months grieving your relationship and dealing with the emotional equivalent of a breakup. Then he moved on and clearly took her feelings seriously if he stopped sleeping in the same bed as you. There is no getting him back, he's moved on. Based on what you wrote, your marriage ended months ago. Unfortunately, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Now for the update. I signed the divorce papers and will not ask for anything from my husband, just hoping that he will no longer hate me. As much as I regret my decisions, I cannot go back in time now. I love that man and I wish I didn't take him for granted. I was just blinded by excitement and new experiences that the open marriage brought us, just I'd always come back to him. While he stopped to be intimate with me and even bought separate bed after he found a girlfriend, and he soon even moved into her place. We don't have any property we got together, and I don't want anything from him in the long run either. This will be my last gift to him, and this is the least I can do for him after all I did to him. I could tell he was depressed, but I thought he'd be happy for me. Oh man, this is my favorite Reddit trope. Let the schadenfreude reign over me. Allow me to wallow in it, to luxuriate in the forbidden pleasure. This is what killed me. Like, what the heck were you expecting? For 6 months you made him miserable to make yourself feel better. I mean, she glosses over exactly what was making him depressed, which I'm assuming is her going on a lot of dates and being away or distant. Shocker, OP pressures their spouse into an open relationship and it ends badly for them. Her own selfishness ended the marriage. In her second post she acts as if she deserves sympathy, but I don't even think the whiners and r/support for waywards would support her. Even the way she bought it up originally was awful. You don't wait until after you marry someone to reveal you want an entirely different kind of relationship, not to mention one most people would not be okay with. She clearly deluded herself on multiple levels to serve her selfishness. I came here to say something along these lines too. Why wait till you're married? That's not fair and truly some relationship ending garbage. Because if she had told him beforehand, she'd have lost him for sure. She fished in the ocean for a trout, and when she got something else, she decided it would do. Now for the last story. My fiancé confessed about sleeping with her ex-boyfriend as his last request before he died of cancer. His name was Tom, age 34, and he passed away a month ago. They had a long-term relationship that lasted for 6 years. She was the one who ended it, and I met her 2 years later. When I heard of his passing, I was shocked, as I didn't even know he was sick, and my fiancé never mentioned it, though she had a habit of bringing him up once in a while. After the funeral, I noticed that she became distant and quiet. She'd refused to even make contact with me. I kept thinking she must be in the midst of heavy grief, but I still felt something was not right. I tried asking her to open up, and she refused and sort of shut me out for a while. Yesterday I came home and found her crying. She refused to let me sit next to her or comfort her in any way, even refused to let me talk to her. I didn't know what to do other than to wait till she had calmed down. She then told me she had something to tell me. She started talking about Tom and his illness, and who was there for him and who wasn't, and so on. She then told me she was contacted by him 3 weeks before his death, asking to see her. She said she felt hesitant, but then went. What she said next shook me. She said he told her about stopping his treatment for a while, and how he felt alone and discouraged. He proceeded to ask if she could spend one night with him as his final wish before he passed on. She said she thought about it a lot and felt conflicted, but eventually agreed. They spent the night together. I know what night it was now, and ended up doing it. She started crying again, swearing that she didn't feel anything that night nor afterwards, and swore that she did this out of guilt towards him. And now she's feeling 10 times more guilty. I'm in an utter shock. I have no idea how to react or what to say. She keeps pleading with me to be understanding of the position she was put in, and not wanting to be dismissive of his request in his last days. I still don't think it's an excuse to do what she did. She said it wasn't about her or how she felt, but about Tom. I still feel like she's wronged me and betrayed my trust and damaged the bond we have together. She hasn't stopped begging me to understand and forgive so we could move past this, but I feel like I'm not the same after I found out about what she did, regardless of her intentions and the fact that he's not around anymore. She's not the Ronald McDonald House. She doesn't have to be out there granting wishes. Or the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I'd much rather call my AITA the Make-A-Wish Foundation than the Ronald McDonald House. Hey dude, sorry you're in this situation. I think there is something you should consider. And I will give you this from the perspective of a guy who has been married 9 years and with my wife for 13 total. If my ex or her ex asked to meet up and my wife didn't tell me, that is a bad thing. I would not care if the person reached out and if my wife wanted to go, but the hiding it hints that there are other things going on. Then she planned an entire night away with him and lied to you about it. That she slept with another person while you were in a relationship with her, and my assumption is you are not in an open relationship. If your girlfriend is loyal to you or is showing loyalty to you by telling you, I think the event would have happened similar to this. She would have told you her ex reached out to you and that he is sick. Then if she went, she would have come back to you and discussed the proposal. Then you could have figured out if it would work or if you were both willing for this to happen. Then it happens or it doesn't. The sneaking around about it leads me to think there are other issues in your relationship that needs to be looked at. Good luck. This is the real root of the issue. The act hurts, but the holding back of the initial meeting is the real problem. Why didn't she feel like she could share that with you? Can you be in a relationship where you can't share with your partner? This should have been a conversation at minimum. Good luck in whatever choice you make. I'm sorry you were betrayed. I've read similar stories here. There was one story of an ex-wife. She had cheated, leading to the divorce, whose dying wish was to have her remarried ex-husband come spend some time with her. She'd wanted cuddling and stuff and to pretend they were still married one last time. He wasn't comfortable with this, but felt bad for her, so he ran it by his very understanding new wife, who set some boundaries in place. He was able to go see his ex one last time, dinner and a movie with her and her sister, no cuddling, and then came home. That was the proper way to do this. Communication and boundaries. Not a pity hookup that she is then guilting you over. This would be a relationship ender for me. I'm sorry she is so crappy and that she is now mourning, to your face, the guy she cheated on you with. This is the correct response. My thoughts while reading the responses was that, if I was currently with a partner who I adored, but an ex-partner put this request to me, I would decline. But wouldn't be against meeting up to chat or reminisce if it would help them. But it would all be discussed with my current partner. She clearly wanted to do it. The fact she didn't even disclose the original message is a red flag. Then lied and set up the evening with him, cheated, and now feels guilty. Be prepared to be made to feel guilty about this OP, which you don't deserve. Feel free to read her some of the better responses on this post if you don't feel like defending yourself anymore. Good luck. No more need be said. The relationship ended the moment she made that decision, and more than likely she'd lose all respect for him if he were to let it slide anyway. If I were in your shoes, I couldn't forgive her. Loyalty shows in moments like this, and she clearly didn't have it. I agree with you. She wants you to forgive her so she can feel better, not anything for you. More selfish behavior. If she was thinking of you, she would not try to guilt trip you into forgiving her. I'm not dismissing the fact she feels guilt, that is certain. I feel she is trying to guilt trip you into helping her feel better.
Am I the a-hole for choosing to live in a city which will make it nearly impossible for my ex to see his child? I, 28 female, got divorced from my ex-husband John, 38 male, of 6 years in June this year. In 2019, I was diagnosed with PCOS and after multiple treatments and many complications, was told that I probably wouldn't be able to have a child naturally. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years, and as expected, this devastated us. Our marriage suffered because while I eventually made my peace with the situation, John couldn't seem to get past it. I suggested fostering and adoption, but his heart wasn't in it anymore. After months of hostility, zero intimacy, and withdrawn affection, he asked for couples therapy. He responded that he'd rather have a divorce. He said he'd been checked out for a while and there was no point dragging things out. I was heartbroken, and it didn't help that I was stuck living with him throughout the lockdown. I eventually accepted the end of our marriage, and as we went through the divorce process, I prepared for the move back to my hometown across the country. Shortly before I moved out, we slept together. I know. It was an impulsive mistake, fueled by alcohol and loneliness, and he made sure I knew it meant nothing. Anyway, I eventually moved back and it's been wonderful. I'd forgotten how much I love being near my family and friends. I was slowly adjusting to single life when I found out that I am pregnant. Yep, I know, right? What are the chances? I told John about the pregnancy and he was over the moon. But for some reason, he assumed that I would be moving back to live with him. When I told him that I have no intention of moving back, but rather raising our child in my hometown, he lost his mind and accused me of trying to keep our child from him out of spite. I told him that he could move if he wanted to be closer to his child, but he insisted that he wouldn't be able to find work out here, that it made more sense for me to move back because I've only been at my new job a few weeks, and it wouldn't be as much of a sacrifice as leaving the job that he's had for 11 years. He offered to pay for the move, a new apartment, etc., but I turned it down and explained that if I stay, I'll be able to keep working because my family's here to support me. And that mom and sisters have already been such a big help with finding a place to stay, preparing for baby, seasoned mom advice, moral and emotional support, and so I feel more confident having them around. If I moved back, I would essentially have to be a stay-at-home mom, which I really don't want. He told his family about the baby without warning me, and now I'm being bombarded with criticism from every direction and being threatened with legal action for alienating them from baby. I don't see why I should be the one to compromise after having to up and move my whole life the way I did. Now for the top comments. Not today, home. John is only interested in you as a broodmare. Get a lawyer and get a custody agreement in writing and get child support. Do not do anything that would make you dependent on John. Yeah, the scariest part of the offer is that he wants Opie to be dependent on him. That just flat out isn't safe for Opie given how he's behaved, and his complete disinterest in Opie's well-being. And if it's not in her best interest, then it's not in the kid's either. Frankly, I don't think the kid would benefit from having this guy take on a more active parenting role regardless. Someone who treats a spouse like a broodmare is also going to treat their kid like some other kind of object. A trophy, a cudgel against Opie, nothing good. So let's get this straight. When he couldn't get what he wanted, he straight up tossed Opie to the curb because he checked out of their marriage. So she had to append her entire life. And now that she's pregnant, he expects her to do it again to make his life more convenient? Opie, do what's best for you and your baby, which should include getting a lawyer to sort out custody and child support as someone else mentioned. Also, congrats. NTA, NTA, NTA. Oh my word, the unmitigated gall of this guy is insane. Tell him to find a different surrogate and to leave you alone. He tossed you aside when you didn't get pregnant and now wants you to sacrifice everything to be his new nanny to your own child. Of course, his family's behaving like this. They're the ones that helped create that monster. I'm just so glad you were back home with your loving and supporting family just in time. Congratulations on your baby and happy holidays with true family. If his family is getting aggressive with you, block them. He ended a relationship. Sounds like he honestly doesn't even want a relationship. Just a baby. Red flag for that. You moved, you started a new life. He can move or not. He made the choice to not be in a relationship with you. He can be the one to move. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my brother-in-law out for his weaponized incompetence and calling him pathetic at dinner? I, female 24, have a sister, female 32, who has a husband, male 38, who is the poster child of weaponized incompetence. They have 4 kids, female 10, male 8, male 5, female 3, and she's pregnant. My sister works a full-time job, 40 plus hours a week, cleans her entire house, cooks, takes care of all her children, without him doing anything. It is seriously mind-blowing that she wakes up like 4 a.m., cooks breakfast, does chores, gets all of her kids ready for school, takes them all to school and daycare, and all he does is stay home and work. And when his kids get home, after my sister picks them up of course, he will play with them for a little and play video games until he falls asleep. And she actually makes more than him. My fiancé, male 26, and I had to stay with them for 6 weeks while our home was being renovated. And since we both work from home, we helped her, and it is amazing how much happier she is when she has help. I helped with the kids, and my fiancé even drove her to doctor's appointments. Her husband literally only acknowledges he is a parent when his family's around. Then he is a God-fearing, hard-working father of 5. He's the one that wanted more kids. She wanted to stop after her last baby, but he needed more boys. I am seriously concerned, not only for her, but her kids as well. Because now her oldest is seeing what's happening and trying to help. But my sister is prideful and refuses to let her child do anything. Me and this man have never gotten along. He's been acting like this since their 8-year-old was born. I've tried talking to her about leaving, but she doesn't want her kids to grow up in a broken home. And unfortunately, her experience with our parents' divorce was completely different than mine, so she doesn't understand that a divorce would benefit her kids here because she thinks they need their mom and dad together. Cut to this past weekend, her and her husband threw a pre-Thanksgiving potluck, where our entire family plus his was there. I stayed with my sister a few days before because I knew he wouldn't help. So, we're at dinner all talking, and I mentioned we are trying for a baby, and my brother-in-law makes an offhanded comment to him about how hard fatherhood is. I snapped and said, like you would know. He looked taken aback and asked me what I meant, and I unloaded on him, calling him a pathetic excuse for a man who makes my 8 months pregnant sister do everything for their family. I went off for a solid 10 minutes, and he sat there shrinking in a seat. I left. Last night, my sister called me and thanked me for standing up for her, and told me she appreciated me. Although today I got a very nasty text from him telling me I'm a terrible person, and that because I lied in front of his family, his mom is angry at him and is moving in with them to help her out, and that I've made him the laughingstock of his family. He certainly thinks so, but am I the a-hole for doing this? His mom is angry at him and is moving in with them to help her out, and it all becomes clear. Not the a-hole. Behind every incompetent man is a mother who did everything for him. Lol. Someone is just pissy because he is being forced to put on his big boy undies. While your timing was not the greatest, he needed to hear it. Besides, isn't Thanksgiving the time of year we all have big blowouts with a crazy family member? Not only did you speak the truth to a guy with learned helplessness, you also seem to have gotten some positive help for your sister. Seriously, if he's that bad, he deserves to be a laughingstock. Maybe that will bring some more positive change, whether it's his finally helping or your sister leaving him. Not even a justified a-hole as some comments suggest. You had a breaking point and he was taking credit for the children's upbringing that your sister single-handedly should be thanked for. He knows he isn't wrong, which is why he sat quietly and kept pretending in front of his family. He would have driven your sister into an early grave. His true colors are bound to come out sooner or later when his mother has moved in. He will not be able to pull the facade forever. When that happens, he will either have to change properly or risk losing the support of his family. All of it started with you speaking up for your sister against his lies. Well done. Next story. Am I the a-hole for forcing my brother and his girlfriend to terminate? So I'm a 24-year-old who moved out of their parents' place a couple years back. My parents are terrible people and were very cruel to me and my brother growing up. I very much enjoyed the space to myself, and it has been the only time in my life I've truly felt safe. My twin brother, Zach, didn't move out and was also pretty miserable living with my parents. Then about 8 months ago, he asked if he and his girlfriend, Kat, could stay with me for a while, as he started school a couple years after me and isn't financially in a place where he can afford his own place. Knowing how awful my parents are, and how much of a good guy and gal Zach and Kat are, it really wasn't much of a decision. I just told them to chip in when they can, and as long as I'm not paying for their food or anything like that, it's chill for the time being. Things have been fine, and Zach and Kat have been nothing but respectful to me and my place. The place is on the smaller side, but Zach is usually at school or work, and Kat works a good amount of the time, so I'm not usually super bothered by it. Their plan is to move out once Zach graduates, which will probably be 2023 at the rate is going. So I'd most likely be living with them another year and a half to 2 years. Now that wasn't much of an issue to me, as they don't really have anywhere to go, and I totally get not wanting to move back in with our parents. The thing is though, about a week back, they revealed to me they were pregnant. While I think it's awesome, and I'm excited for them, this severely throws a wrench into our living arrangement. I really can't deal with a baby living with us for the extended future. I'm someone who's very sensitive to noises and suffers insomnia. So a crying baby would literally make my life hell on earth. When I asked them what they were planning on doing, they said they were going to keep it as Kat doesn't believe in abortion. And they feel as if they'd make good parents. They definitely would. They're great people. I said, oh well, congrats then. We ended a conversation there for that night. The next day, I asked them what their plans were for housing in the near future, as they know about my sleeping condition and how I'd feel with a baby/toddler in the house. They said they'd have to stay here as they didn't really have anywhere else to go. I told them that won't be happening for reasons stated earlier. They both got very upset and accused me of forcing them to terminate their baby. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. That's their problem. You've stated your boundaries clearly, and if that doesn't match up with their beliefs, then they can find another way to manage. You didn't sign up to living with your kid. I'm super confused as to how they both work, one of them full-time, but can't rent a place themselves. Opie's posts make it seem like they don't have any other option, but surely they should be able to afford to rent even a studio apartment on 1.5 incomes. 1.5 incomes who haven't had to pay for real rent for the past few months, that should at least have gotten their deposit and first/last month covered. If it's so dire that they're not even covering their should-be expenses, full rent, utilities, food and wear and tear and stuff, they're not in a place to have a kid. You weren't forcing them to do anything. They can have their baby. They just can't do it while living with you. If their family planning is based on being able to live with you rent-free for the foreseeable future, then they can't afford to have a baby. You agreed to house them rent-free for over 2 years, which was incredibly generous, But this is a boundary for you, and they need to accept that and stop blaming you for their financial situation. Living with a baby is a lot, especially if the baby isn't yours. You have done nothing wrong here. They just can't do it while living with you. For free. You did not force them to copulate. You did not force them to not use birth control. You're not forcing them to have a termination. This is 100% the result of their actions and decisions, and it's on them to deal with the consequences. If they need housing suitable for a pregnant woman and later a baby, that's what they need. And it's not a thing you offered or even can offer to them. If Zach wants to be a dad, he needs to earn enough money to be a dad to support his partner and child. If Kat wants to be a mom, she needs someone who'll provide shelter and food and everything else she and the baby will need, at the very least for however long she'll be off work having and raising the baby. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she should be thankful my daughter only called the cops and didn't press charges on her? I've been with my wife for 4 years. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and she and my wife were never able to form a strong bond, and one of the reasons for that is distance. My wife did try to get close to my daughter in the past, but my daughter claimed she was just attempting to control her, rather than have a respectful relationship with her. They had past issues, but now get along a bit. My daughter was visiting for Thanksgiving and brought her Honda car with her. I was out of the house when my wife, whose car been sitting in the garage for a month now, took my daughter's car keys without her permission while she was showering and left in it for nearly 2 hours. My daughter called me as soon as she got out of the bathroom and was freaking out, saying neither her car or my wife was there. I tried to calm her down as I tried to get a hold of my wife, but she did not respond. We at this point figured my wife took the car, but did not know where she was or when she was coming back. My daughter searched my wife's closet, then called the cops and reported her car taken. She called back to tell me my wife's closet was half empty, and cops were called. I got off work and went home immediately, and on the way home my wife called crying because she just picked up by the cops at Walmart and was brought into the station. I went over there and met my daughter there. We discussed what happened, and it turned out my wife took the car to go do some shopping and left my daughter a note in the kitchen to let her know since she doesn't have her number, and took clothes from her closet she packed earlier in the morning for church donations. But my daughter thought she ran away and told the cops that this woman, my wife, ran away with her car. My daughter got her car back, and my wife was let go after filling out a form. I took her home, and that is where she had a fight with my daughter, calling her crazy for calling the cops on her and few other things I can't remember. But I told my wife what she did was unacceptable, and she should be grateful my daughter only called the cops in a moment of panic and did not press charges after what she did. My wife was shocked and started crying, saying she couldn't believe I sided with my daughter after she humiliated her and caused her panic and to be involved with the cops like that. I stated that she should have not touched that key in the first place, and she defended herself, saying she was getting things done and buying stuff we needed for the house, but we made her out to be the bad guy. She left her sister's place, saying she had enough of my daughter's disgraceful and vindictive attitude towards her, and said she'll stay there indefinitely or until I get my priorities straight. Because after what happened, she's no longer sure if she is my wife or whether she was treated as such. Edit. My wife's car isn't working and has been in the garage for a while now. That is why she took my daughter's car. Not today home. Gotta be honest, my first thought is your wife might have tried to arrange a situation for you to get mad at your daughter and make her stay away even more. Now she's just upset it backfired. Did you actually find a note in the kitchen? Seems pretty much like that. She didn't ask for permission before using the car, did not call or send a text because she doesn't have her number, which explains how close they are and why she shouldn't be taking someone's car whom she doesn't even have a contact info of, and then leaving a note in the kitchen. Could have attended her husband's call or sent him a text that she was taking the car. Looks like she got herself into the trap that she set. Not having stepdaughter's number also shows how little she cares about the father/daughter relationship. What if something happened to dad? How could she contact daughter? What if she wanted to plan a birthday thing for husband? Like, how do you not want the number of your spouse's children just in case?
Girlfriend, 24, of 1.5 years cheated on me 22, and I don't know how to deal with her not understanding that the relationship is over. Quick backstory on me. My now ex-girlfriend was my third relationship in my life, and I've also been cheated on in both of my previous relationships. This is to say that I've already made a lot of mistakes you can make after being cheated on. The pick-me attempts, taking them back, getting violent towards the affair partner, and other stupid mistakes you make when you get cheated on. I've learned from these experiences. This sub has already helped me a lot. I was love bombed and gaslit in both of the previous relationships, but I didn't even know what those terms meant at the time. I was blind to red flags and just made stupid decisions overall. After not dating for 2 years, I met my current ex-girlfriend. She was the exact opposite of me, extroverted, loud, and the life of the party. We first met at a party and she came up to me and asked me if I wanted to dance. I got uncomfortable and confused since she was extremely gorgeous, but at this point my self-esteem was at rock bottom. I just stood there not saying anything for a minute. She then just took my hand and dragged me onto the dance floor. I actually like to dance, so I didn't fight it, and she spent the night just animating me to have fun and interact with people I hadn't met before. It was really fun, and she asked for my number at the end of the night, so I gave it to her. After talking and going out for 2 weeks, I told her about my past relationships and that I didn't know if I wanted to pursue another one. She was very understanding, but still said that she wanted me to be with her. I agreed, and for the next 1.5 years, she showed me what a relationship should actually be like. She respected my feelings, asked me how my day was, actually talked to me if something was wrong, and a lot of other small things that really showed she cared about me. I regained my self-esteem, and of course loved her as much as I could every single day. We had arguments, but it was always productive and trying to find a solution, and never us screaming at each other. She made me feel loved and desired. This brings me to my D-Day, which was now 2 weeks ago. I was on a language travel for 1.5 months. We talked to each other daily, and I never noticed anything weird about her behavior. I got home 3 days earlier than planned and wanted to surprise her. I got back to her apartment at 11 p.m. I figured that if she wasn't awake, I'd just lie next to her and surprise her that way, since I was also tired. I went into her apartment with her spare key and walked towards the bedroom. When I looked inside, I saw my girlfriend sleeping next to a guy I had never seen before. I felt all the emotions I had felt before, and knew that the only good decision was to just walk away until I had calmed down. I went to my car and drove to my home. I tried to sleep but couldn't, even though I was tired. For the next 2 days I didn't let her know what I saw, and just replied to her messages like nothing happened. I immediately told my best friend though, let's call him Mr. Krabs since that's what I call him. He really helped me emotionally and got me into the boxing gym where I could let go of most of my anger. Hitting the speed bag is one of the most therapeutic physical experiences I know. I don't know why though. Maybe it's the rhythmic banging of the speed bag. I actually cried for the first time in 13 years talking to him. We talked about what I wanted to do now and how I would confront her. After all of this was done, I visited my girlfriend on the day I was supposed to return. When I arrived, she was very cheerful and went in for a hug. But I held my arm out and told her that we needed to talk. I then told her all the things I talked through with Mr. Krabs. I told her that I had actually returned 3 days early and wanted to surprise her. But when I went into her bedroom, I saw somebody else sleeping beside her. The cheerfulness she displayed completely vanished, and she looked like she saw a ghost. She tried starting to talk, but I told her that I would first be getting everything I want to say off my chest, since she owed me at least that much. I continued to talk to her about how much she had hurt me, but that I didn't hate her. I told her that I always would have listened to any problem she had and tried to work it out with her, but that her cheating on me was the immediate end of our relationship. I told her all of my thoughts that I had organized with Mr. Krabs. At the end, I basically told her that I wouldn't be in her life anymore, but that I still hoped she'd be happy with the new guy. She already started crying as I was talking, but when I said the last sentence, she started crying harder than any other time I had seen her cry. After she somewhat composed herself, she started saying that the guy didn't mean anything, that it was a one-time thing, she'd never do it again, and all the other things that I've seen written down in this sub before. I told her that she knew exactly how much it would hurt me, and she still did it, so I couldn't take her back. At this point, she started talking about how much of a terrible human being she is, and that she should just die. I didn't want to leave her like that, so I tried calming her down, but she kept talking about how she doesn't want to live if I'm not with her. So I called her best friend over and explained the situation before leaving. After this was done, I sat in my car and on the way home started crying again. I suppressed my emotions as much as possible in front of her, but I was still a wreck. Now we finally get to the reason I am posting on this sub. Since the day I confronted her, she has been spamming my phone with texts and calls to the point where I had to block her. After I blocked her, she drove to my apartment and started ringing the doorbell, begging me to talk to her. I tried ignoring her and the ringing stopped at some point. When I went out a bit later to buy groceries, she was still in front of my house waiting for me. I didn't see her, but as soon as I walked out the door, she threw herself at me, telling me how sorry she was, and that we needed to talk. I told her that I had already said everything there is to say. After getting her off of me, I asked her to stop bothering me so I could heal. But she isn't listening. Every time I go out, I weirdly run into her. Sometimes alone, sometimes with her friends, but she always mysteriously shows up wherever I go. I keep ignoring her, but she still won't stop. How do I deal with this? I still like her and hope she gets better, but she isn't respecting anything I told her about me needing space from her to heal. She would have always listened to a request like this, but she's been acting so weird ever since I confronted her. She even gets her friends to write to me about how I should forgive her and take her back. But anyone that wrote that to me I already have blocked. It just makes me sad seeing her like this, and I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want to move since most of my friends are in this city, and the apartment I'm renting is perfect for me. I don't want to get a restraining order, but at this point, I might have to. Thank you for reading. Any advice would be much appreciated. Now for the top advice. If she always shows up at the places you go to, check your phone for a tracking app. Also check your car for a tracking device. Good luck. She is probably tracking my phone. Thank you for the advice. I'll get someone who knows what they are doing to take a look at my phone, and I'll check my car. Speaking of your car, a lot of newer cars, like mine, have a phone app from the manufacturer that allows you or another user to check the car's status and location. If you have one of those, change the password. You're 1 year younger than me, but hundreds of years ahead of everyone my age when it comes to emotional maturity. Well done. My previous experiences showed me a lot of things I did wrong, but this time I'm satisfied with how I handled it. Thank you for the kind words. Previous nicks created scabs that are hard to cut again, that also leave you full of insecurity that allow you to settle. You ignore yellow signs and only react for the red ones. I believe a woman's body is her own, and she can do whatever she likes with it. Odds are, not with me. If she's in the bars or clubs 3 to 4 nights a week, she's for the pub. If she doesn't want to make you a priority in her life, don't make her a priority in yours. Seems like your problem is you haven't chosen yourself first. Women think that you are lucky to be with them. You will continue this cycle until you learn that you have value, and any woman would be lucky to be with you. Your relationships will change when you realize that you are the star in your life, and everyone else is only allowed in it to add value. The moment they make you uncomfortable or unhappy, cut them out. Stop getting women to have a woman. Get a partner who is willing to constantly contribute to your life, not someone whose self-value is such you are lucky to share them. First of all, huge props for how you handled this. I can't imagine any better way how to handle this. What I would do in your case would be to give her one more chance to leave you alone. Write her a letter where you tell her that you see no reason in talking to her, since she has showed you clearly how good she is at lying to you. You also don't believe that the one time she cheats on you is the one time you catch her. What are the chances? And most of all, you have no desire to talk to her because she never made any attempt to come clean, which shows you that she planned to lie to you forever. She had more than enough time to come clean before you met with her. Because of all that, you can't believe a single word that comes out of her mouth, and that makes any conversation unnecessary. If she wants to show you that you meant anything to her, then she can show that the best way by respecting your wish for distance and stay as far away from you as she can. If she won't do that, then you will be forced to go to the police to get a restraining order. Stay strong and stay on your path. You are doing that great, champ. And keep on going to the boxing gym. It will be good for you. Last but not least, since she showed you how good she is at lying to you, you better assume that this wasn't her first rodeo. So go to a doctor and get tested for STDs. Better safe than sorry. Thank you for reminding me to get an STD check. I just called my doctor. Also, the letter is a great idea. My mom used to write letters to me to convey her feelings after a disagreement. Thank you for all the encouragement. Now for the last story. 3 days after I caught my husband cheating, he attempted to take his life. I cannot believe I am writing this. I am in hospital and I don't want to subject my friends and family to every outraged thought in my mind, so I am choosing this sub to make an outlet. Short of it, I found out 3 days ago that my husband had been sleeping with multiple men unprotected in our own home over the past few months. I am 6 months pregnant. I posted about it here, and after talking to him I told him there is no way I can ever get past this and we have to separate. I know it sounds like a no-brainer, but it was so hard for me to say since I have been with him over a decade. This is our first child together. I am in my early 40s, and I thought I knew him and loved him. I guess I still do, even though I am sickened by what he did. He has been begging me to give it another chance, but I am just refusing. I got a call from the ER at the hospital today as his next of kin, because he had taken an overdose of sleeping pills, then called the ambulance. He was taken to hospital and I had to go and show up and see him. When I started experiencing severe abdominal pain and palpitations and ended up being admitted myself. They are confident it is okay and just brought on by stress. My husband's sister came to visit him and then me. He had told her what happened. I hadn't spoken to her, and she was sympathetic at first, but then I blurted out something like I am just so furious at him for doing all of this to me, and she got angry and defensive, and said that the cheating was inexcusable and she can understand my pain. But the attempt to take his life shows how much pain he is in over this and his sexuality, and she is shocked I am not more empathetic since I love him for so long. I was just lost for words. What about the pain I am in? I find out my best friend and husband has been doing this. I am pregnant and in hospital and trying to deal with the fact my marriage is over because of his actions. I am not trying to sound self-pitying. I know that it sounds like that, and I didn't mean that his self-ending attempt was him doing something to me. I just meant that everything he has done has put me in such an awful situation, and I just cannot believe she isn't even thinking about my pain. I just can't believe what a mess my life is now. Our lives just look like normal, bland, suburban, corporate people with no mess, and now this. Sorry for the incoherent rambling. I am just in total shock over everything. Now for the comments. Another one with minions who use his identity as a weapon to silence the betrayed spouse. This is not about being gay. It's about his betrayal and his blatant manipulative move to pretend to end himself. Move back to your family. Get away from his family of toxic supporters. Discovering that you are bi or gay does not give you a pass to hurt others. Let him recover with their help. Let them see him for real when you are no longer around as a buffer to absorb their criticism. They'll quickly realize what you've been through because his selfishness will show itself. Yep, take pills, check. Call 911, check. Get sympathy from sister and make wife a bad guy if she leaves and doesn't support, check. I don't doubt he has self-ending thoughts right now. He's at risk. That said, a cry for help is just that, and he needs to get the help necessary to work through his issues with identity, betrayal, and so on. But it doesn't have to be OP. Firstly, your primary concern has to be you and your baby and your well-being. You're allowed to be selfish. That's a good thing. Secondly, your ex is not your responsibility any longer. Take your name off as his next of kin. Block him and his sister from your life. You owe him nothing. He may have struggled with his identity, but that's not your burden to bear after he put your mental and physical health at risk. You owe him zero empathy. You are allowed to be angry and hurt. The way your ex deceived you erased all the 10 years of love in each and every go he had cheating on you. Your ex clearly has a caring sister in his life. Let her take the burden of empathy for him. You have every right to be completely done with him. Thank you. I needed to hear this. I moved away from my family and friends circle across the other side of the country 5 years ago for his career. Had he actually told me that he thought he was bi or unsure, I would have absolutely talked to him about it. He even knows I am bi. Instead, he chose to meet random men, have unprotected activities while I was at home and sleeping. I just can't feel sympathy with him right now, and I cannot believe that's what I am being asked to do. Surely, I deserve some for Pete's sake. He has completely unraveled my life. Do you have family or friends you can stay with where you came from? Putting a country between you and him may be what's best for your pregnancy. It's only been 3 days and I haven't even told my family. I really don't know what to do. My job is here and our home. My closest friends are on the other side of the country and I have told a couple of them. One is flying over to be with me as she can work remotely. I will have to work all of this out, but I am just so overwhelmed right now. Him being with a man doesn't matter. Cheating is cheating. If it was a woman, he would be hated, but because it was with a man, he's getting sympathy. Heck no. And unprotected too. No respect. You are pregnant and need to spend every ounce of energy on your precious baby. Tell yourself you will worry about this other stuff later. That's what I'm telling myself. I'm 7 months pregnant and was told about my husband's affair via Instagram by his affair partner. I found out at 15 weeks pregnant. It has been robbing me of my pregnancy, but I keep telling myself I'll deal with all that later. Right now is my time with the baby. Of course, it's not easy and 100% possible, but doing the best I can. You can do it too. Good luck. I am so sorry you are in this situation. Thanks so much for your comment.